business thing.
It's just business.
No one has ever said it's just business before going and like doing something good for someone.
Right. That's fair.
So it's a
But
little bit tricky, but what I'm
absolutely.
understanding is that when you are dealing with the toxic person and they are mistreating you,
That's
that
right.
the value in saying it's just business, I'm just putting up with this person because I'm doing my job, that can be a relief for the targeted person.
I think so. And again, I think that's where a lot of self-awareness is really required. Because if I'm taking care of my daughter, and I'm a single parent, and this paycheck is her path to a better life, getting up to my boss and saying, "Hey, that was a violation of my personal standard of how you should talk to me," and whatever. Yeah, I mean that's absolutely, you're within your rights to say that, but is it going to get you to where you need to go for your daughter? And so that's where I say disengaging from that personal sense of I'm gonna speak up at the way you talked to me. It may be advantageous. It may get you where you want to go, but that's where I argue people need to think cold utility. What is my goal? If it's to get my daughter through college, it's to get my daughter to have the life she deserves, and I'm going to go about this in the most rational way possible. That's where I'm invoking that, hey, it's just business, because ultimately it is personal. And you want to see your daughter grow up to be the most successful person she can be. And that's why you're working this job in the first place. But ultimately, if you can get away, get away, get away. Don't work that job if you have alternatives. Find another job. Find a way to support your daughter in that. And so that I would argue the bottom line and rational and cold go far beyond just the situation, because if you're dealing with a boss who's being cold and manipulative, a lot of times they will say, hey, we're family here. A lot of organizations like to play that card, and so you may feel guilty for leaving with 2 weeks notice and no replacement. You may feel guilty for quitting on the spot because, gosh, I they've created this aura of you owe them. You don't owe them anything. And so thinking cold and utilitarian about how you want to go about this situation. Bottom line, I want my daughter to grow up healthy and rational. How am I going to get about doing that? Most likely, it is eventually going to be with a different job. And so I do want to remind people that these are not strategies meant to be done in perpetuity. They are temporary stopgap, so you don't melt down and feel crushed under the weight of the manipulation. And always, like I say, be seeing a therapist, be seeing somebody professional to help you manage those emotions, because there's going to be a lot of emotion and pain that you're going to go through, no matter how good you are at this.
Yes, it seems we've been talking about how to get to that bottom line attitude, but the cold and the rational would be much harder if you are under emotional manipulation, which is meant
Absolutely.
to disturb all of that. So we've talked about going to a therapist as a strategy.
hmm
What else have you seen that works for people to hit the cold and the rational?
So for the cold, one of the things that I stumbled across in the literature of aggression is what they call the fly on the wall paradigm. And I really like this because they argue if you look at a situation, especially when you ruminate or replay it, and you're seeing it through your eyes, you're re-traumatized all over again. You're seeing your boss right in front of you, screaming at you, red faced, throwing things, and you're reliving it. And so it hurts again, and you're seeing it personally. So what I'd advocate for somebody who, unfortunately, sadly, may be going through such an abusive workplace environment is be on the wall. Imagine you're a security camera and you're watching the interaction. Imagine you're somebody looking through a window or an office door at the interaction. Remove yourself as you replay it from that situation emotionally in the first person. Look at it from a third person, and then take on the persona of a superhero in that third person. I always tell people, think about it from the super rational, and I'm a super pro. And more importantly, when you tell that story to other people, don't tell it from the first person. Tell it objectively. Tell it from the perspective of that superhero. How would you, if you observed somebody being abused by their boss, how would you, as a third person, tell the story to somebody else? You'd stick to the facts. You'd be objective. You say, hey, look, the person was standing in this way and they were saying these words. Then do that for yourself. And so by being a superhero on the wall rather than a victim in the situation, you can remove a lot of that personal feeling associated with the abuse.
To go even deeper on these ideas, you can watch my full episode using the link in the description or the box on the screen.